The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun by Julie Brown on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Julie has a new album out, Smell the Glamour, the Diamond Tiara Edition, and she's on the phone with me now. Thank you for coming on, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to do this.
Julie, you developed a lot of great characters throughout your career, but when was it when you realized that you were funny?
That would have been in Catholic school when I was in elementary school, because I was so bored and it was so horrible because of the nuns that I couldn't, the only way I could deal with it was trying to make my friends laugh. That's the only way. And I was okay at it, so I figured I was funny then.
Your palms may have met a lot of rulers back then, I suppose.
Yes, I got in trouble all the time. But, I couldn't not do it because it was so... Did you go to Catholic school by chance?
No, I don't think that ever let me in.
Oh, no, it's just so boring and so, oppressive and serious that I just don't think there's any other way to get through it. You know what I mean?
Understood. Well, let's put it this way. If I went to Catholic school, I'm sure my ear would be a lot bigger from being dragged around.
Probably. I mean, if you have any kind of edge to you, you get in trouble.
What got you into comedy professionally?
Well, when I was in acting school in San Francisco, I did this project with my friend who was supposed to do his third-year project. There was 2 years of that school, and he was the first class that had a third-year project. He asked me to do it with him, and we did a really outrageous comedy show, crazy, and everybody else was doing Shakespeare. We got this big reaction to it. I mean, the school kind of flipped out, and then someone even booked us into a nightclub before we even graduated. And at that point on, I realized it was so much more fun than doing serious theater, which is what that school was. And at that point, that was it. That's when I said, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Julie Brown is my guest on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Julie, before you made it big, you were on a number of television shows. Some of the memorable ones include Laverne and Shirley and the Jeffersons, and an appearance as one of Ralph Malph's dates, Susie Simmons.
Happy Days. Yeah, that was really fun. There was the same casting director who worked for, Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley, and he came to watch me in this comedy class I was in. I was in this comedy class that Harvey Lembeck taught. I don't know if you remember him, but he was a character actor. And a lot of people were working in his class, like Robert Williams was in his class and John Ritter. So he came to that class, and then I got cast in Happy Days. And sort of once they know you, they start, they'll cast you in other shows that they have. So that was fantastic. I had so much fun doing that.
But the music's where you were famous, Julie, and that's where you put together your first EP, which later turned into your first album, Trapped in the Body of a White Girl.
Right.
Now, as a younger man, I heard you on Dr. Demento at first with The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun. That's probably the single that launched you into your comedy superstardom and then a starring role all over MTV. Talk about the ride from there.
Actually, the first song that became famous from that record was I Like 'Em Big and Stupid. There was a radio station in Florida that found it because I put that record out myself. I didn't have a distributor at first or record label or anything. This one radio station started playing it, and it became this big thing in that market. And then somebody, I think out here, found the EP because of that. Radio stations, they all talk to each other, especially the morning drive people. And so then they found Homecoming Queen, another radio station, and then that became even way bigger than I Like 'Em Big and Stupid. But that was the first one that took off. So then that became this thing and sort of this cult hit. And then Rhino Records, who I'm sure you know, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they came to me and they said, we'd like to take your EP and distribute it. So I made a deal with them, and I put out the record Goddess in Progress. And then once that was out, Warner Brothers called me up and said, these songs are so theatrical. Do you have any movie ideas? And I pitched them Earth Girls Are Easy, and they bought it. So in the process, so we made Earth Girls Are Easy, which was really hard to get made, and that was a real struggle. But the whole thing about the MTV show was that I was going to promote Earth Girls Are Easy, and they said, do you want to go on MTV and promote it? And I said, well, sure. And then once I was doing it, the MTV show, then MTV said to me, do you want to have a show? So it was all these things kept leading to the next thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then my MTV show was real popular, and it was just, you can't, like, how would you predict that as far as like a career path? You couldn't.
What was your persona? You developed a series of great characters based off of one kind of attitude that you really perfected. Just Say Julie was a big part of that. I used to love the way you lambasted the Valley Girl types, the models. You had a lot of fun with Madonna, John Bon Jovi, and all other celebrities.
Right, because, when they asked me to be on MTV, because, up until that point, they just had VJs, and the VJs always acted, their attitude was like, oh, here's another great video, right? And I thought, there's no way in hell I can do that I can act like these videos, which half of them are so stupid. So I would make fun of them. And I thought they'll either kick me off the air or they'll like it, right? And they liked it. So that's how that happened, because I thought I can't act like Martha Quinn. I can't do it because it's too stupid. So.
Maybe Mojo Nixon would have written a song about you. Julie, I want to spend the next segment talking about your new album, Smell the Glamour, the Diamond Tiara Edition. But first, I have to say, I was a big fan of Strip Mall when it was on.
Oh, thank you. I know Strip Mall was this really crazy, crazy project that a lot of people don't know about because it wasn't on that long. But I thought it was pretty great. It's just, one of the problems with it was too expensive for Comedy Central, and even though the ratings were good, the person, this is what happens with TV shows sometimes while they vanish. The person who was our executive there, she left, and the new people coming in, they weren't part of developing that show. So if there's any problem with the show, like if a show doesn't have strong ratings or if it's too expensive, that's why sometimes they can be canceled. So the new people that came in were like, well, this is too expensive, so it got canceled. But wasn't it crazy?
It was. One of the highlights of the show was your rivalry with Cindy Williams.
Oh, no. Cindy Williams, it was really funny to cast her in that part because I'd been in Laverne and Shirley years ago. And she was, when I was on Laverne and Shirley, that's the point, I don't know if you remember this, where she and Penny Marshall were having all this huge rivalry, like in real life. So
yes.
When I was on the set, they were like not talking to each other, and it was kind of weird and everything. Then when we cast her in Strip Mall, she shows up, and she's like the nicest person ever. She's so sweet and really fun. And I just thought it was such a funny thing because I was playing a character who had been a child star and then was struggling to get back on top. I thought it was really funny if she had sort of an imaginary rivalry with someone like Cindy Williams, right, who was a star at the time. So I thought it was really funny, too. It was just so absurd that she was my rival. It just didn't even make sense.
And what inspired you to want to play Tonya Harding and Elena Bobbitt in the same movie, The Attack of the 5'2" Women?
Well, what happened with that was I had done the Medusa satire for Showtime, and it was really successful for them. I mean, we won awards and all kinds of things. So then they said, okay, why don't you do another one of these? And right at that moment, those two were the funniest people in the news to me, or funniest sort of media people. And the fact that they were both really tiny and so crazy, I thought, I'm just going to do this special with both of them and divide it up. Like, half of it is Tonya Harding, half of it is Lorena Bobbitt. And it just seemed so funny to me, and that's why we wrote that and did that. But they were famous in the moment. You know what I mean?
Julie Brown is my guest on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Straight ahead, we'll talk about her new album, Smells Like Glamour, the Diamond Tiara Edition. And here's some tracks, now available on iTunes and Julie's website, juliebrown.com, on Revenge of the 80s Radio.